This is the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire. They're Orthodox Christians who mostly speak Greek. So what's happening with the Byzantines? Well, it's the late 11th century and a group of Central Asian nomads called the Turks have been pushing westwards. The Turks are Muslims. This isn't the first time Muslim forces have been pushing into Byzantine lands. It's been going on for 4 centuries, ever since Islam united the Arabs and they conquered the Arabian Peninsula, Iran, Mesopotamia, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, the rest of North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, Malta, and Sicily. The Muslim Arabs had also pushed all the way into northern France and even besieged the Byzantine capital Constantinople in the 8th century. In the early 11th century, the Fatimid ruler ordered the destruction of Christian churches in Jerusalem, while Christians were persecuted or enslaved in other territories. More recently, the Muslim Turks defeated the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, and by 1095 much of Anatolia had been conquered. The Byzantines were in a bad position. So Emperor Alexios Komnenos has an idea. Earlier in the century in 1054, Christianity had a split. This was called the Great Schism. Western and Eastern Christianity disagreed on a lot and they broke from one another. Emperor Alexios saw that Western Europe had plenty of well-armed knights who were experienced from fighting Arabs or one another, and so he saw an opportunity to mend relations. Emperor Alexios sent a call for help to the Pope in Rome, Urban II. Alexios didn't follow the Pope, being Orthodox, but he asked for help in fighting off those pesky Turks. He basically said, look, we have our differences and we don't like each other, but we're Christians and we face a common threat. Please help us defend our land by sending soldiers, and let's put the past behind us. When Pope Urban II heard this cry for help, his eyes lit up. The Byzantines need help pushing the Turks out of Anatolia, he declared at the Council of Clermont in 1095. You know what that means? We help the Byzantines and the Spanish and Portuguese? No, we take Jerusalem. Alright, we take Jerusalem. Pope Urban II used this cry for help to turn it into something completely different. He called on knights, nobles, and peasants to take up arms and march towards Jerusalem, and on their way, if they could, give the Byzantines a hand. Jerusalem needed to be liberated from Muslim control, since Christians, both citizens and pilgrims, were being persecuted. Whoever joined this campaign would have their sins absolved in payment. People who heard the Pope's speech in Clermont responded with the cry Deus vult, which was Latin for God wills it. So naturally everyone was taking advantage. Nobles and knights wanted glory, land, and good standing with the Pope, peasants wanted to get off the farm and have their sins cleansed, and merchants wanted nice new trading opportunities. As the armies were being raised, a priest in France named Peter the Hermit decided to raise his own private army of peasants and some nobles. Heading east towards Anatolia, they marched into the Rhineland on the way and massacred thousands of Jews because, why not? When they finally reached Anatolia, the People's Crusade was wiped out by an army of Turks, because after all, these were just radical peasants in a foreign land, not professional warriors. But then the real warriors arrived. In 1097, they captured Nicaea from the Fatimids and went on to defeat the Turks at the Battle of Dorylaeum that summer. Then they went south towards the old city of Antioch, originally Byzantine, laying siege and finally capturing it in 1098, repelling Muslim reinforcements. Antioch gave the Crusaders a direct shot at the big prize, Jerusalem. In 1099, after a month-long siege, they captured the city where Christ had been crucified. The Crusaders proceeded to carry out a terrible massacre inside Jerusalem. Several eyewitness accounts were written by people on the Crusader side who all described the same massacre in graphic detail. Some were shocked, while others were having great fun. Anyways, the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem was established in the aftermath. It would remain there for about 200 years, but it would have to endure attacks from powerful Muslim forces. Here's the thing, the First Crusade and the Crusades which followed are often portrayed as being unprovoked, brutal, and unnecessary. The truth, they were not unprovoked. There were 4 centuries of provocations. Europe needed to be defended, and a military response was long overdue. But there should have been crusades in Spain and all around the Mediterranean, and a larger campaign in Anatolia too. Instead, they focused on Jerusalem and brutally massacred the civilian population. Meanwhile, no crusades were called in Spain, and apart from a few battles in the First Crusade, Byzantine Anatolia was just forgotten. The crusades which followed were about defending that new territory in the Holy Land, while the rest of Europe was undefended. The only other instance of attention given by crusaders to the Byzantine Empire was in the Fourth Crusade, in 1204, which more or less destroyed Constantinople along with their chances of defending themselves against the Ottoman Turks, who conquered it 2 centuries later. By that point, Spain and Portugal had reconquered their lands for Christendom without a single crusade to help them. Other crusades were also disasters, or were against other Christians and Europeans. Two things can be true at once. The Muslim armies were relentless and needed pushing back, but the crusades we got left Europe undefended and caused unnecessary bloodshed in the Holy Land, and were for the most part failures. A response was justified, but it wasn't exactly the right response.